All right. So we did get cut off in our first video. So this is part one to the Head Start lesson planning training. We got cut off going through the teacher checklist and the explanations for the different areas to meet the Easter Seals lesson plan requirement. I was just talking about health and safety and having an activity. I was giving an example of an activity that I would use. I was saying that if I was doing the road study or just meeting a pedestrian safety requirement, because as you can see right here, as you can see right here in this area, pedestrian safety activities must be documented 4 times a year. So September, December, March, and June, we should have pedestrian safety activities dealing with children getting around in the neighborhoods and being safe as a pedestrian on the streets and in vehicles. It's very important to cover transportation safety as well. So an example activity that I was saying that I would use to meet this requirement is practice crossing. Let me put my charger in. Practice crossing the sidewalk as if it was a street. So pretending that the street was a sidewalk, taking turns to practice crossing and talking about looking both ways before stepping into the street. So that would be activity that I would do, as well as have the discussion about needing an adult, the importance of having an adult to cross the street, or a person that their parents say that they can with. And then another activity that you can do is talk about the stoplight colors. Show them a picture of the stoplight. Do color identification, see what colors they know, and then give them the meaning behind each color. But first, ask them. See, it's great to see what children already know. A lot of them ride in the cars with their families, so they know what red means and what yellow and green. And plus, remember, we use these activities every year, so we should connect previous learning experiences. So for health and safety, it's just important that we have 2 activities a week that meet this area. The next part is talking about toothbrushing. We actually toothbrushing. Brush our teeth every day in our classrooms. The children do. And we promote independence them because we eventually want them to be able to get their own toothpaste and so forth. It's best practice to do it both 2 times a day after each breakfast and lunch. However, at least do it once, and make sure it's on your schedule and make sure that you are doing it consistently every day. And it's listed on your lesson plan. And with toothbrushing, going back to health and safety, speaking about the dentists and doctors and anything that has to do with the health related activities, eating healthy, uh, movement, how it's good for our bodies. Thinking about those as well because children, they should be aware of that. And it does connect to science and eating healthy connects to nutrition. However, remember, we integrate our learning experience throughout areas for our children. We don't want our experience to just identify one area. So next we have our nutrition area, and nutrition is very important because we need our children to learn how to choose healthy choices for eating. So of course we do not do a lot of fatty experiences. However, it is good to provide children with activities so they can identify what's healthy for them, what's healthy eating, and what's not healthy eating. Nutrition activities, we have a nutrition resource binder. We use I'm Moving, I'm Learning curriculum and Choosy Kids resources. Just for example, I'm going to show you guys the I'm Moving, I'm Learning has a great document, healthy habits vocabulary, and it really breaks down specific areas. So right here we have what's the language about dental and about keeping a healthy smile. So discussing healthy smile parts. So your mouth, your gums, your lips, the root, teeth, going down to smile tools, thinking about tools that the dentist use when we visit the dentist. And then looking at those not so healthy smells, cavities, bad breath, germs, pain, candy, holes, spots, soda. So spending time introducing children to topics and of discussions and activities that promote learning these things about that healthy smell. Um, Over here we have nutrition, so words about healthy eating and drinking. So what's some food and drink choices, sources of where is it coming from, characteristics. So thinking about that sensory when you are talking about food and drinks, and then skills. So scrubbing, netting, slicing, mixing. All of these are words that we should use when we're introducing children to nutrition activities. Mealtime behaviors, table setting. And when you think about that, we're thinking about math, so counting as we're setting up that table, approaches to learning because they want to, they're curious about what's needed to set up the table. They want to do it. Social emotional, uh, them being able to work with a teacher to set up the table. Wanting to meet someone else's needs, language understanding, the directions of setting up the table. So just thinking you could just go so many areas with this. And then continuing to look at the healthy habits vocabulary about movement over here. And then you have modifiers over here. So this is a great document that we should use when planning our nutrition and health and safety, that health piece of it. A lot of this could relate to it. So, and this is in the lesson plan resource binder. So if you already have it, please make sure that you are using it because it's very resourceful when we're planning activities for our children to meet the requirements that the performance standards and the ELOF recommends for us. So let's go back to our lesson plan checklist. So now we're talking about food experiences. So we should have 2 food experiences a month. Our curriculum provides us with the Cook with Me book that has, it's one of the big books and it has some great cooking experiences that you can do. But we also could just do simple things like taste salted crackers versus unsalted crackers. Tasting 2 different juices and saying which one we like better. Spreading butter on bread. Really just providing children with those hands-on experiences that they could experience food and not having to go over the top. You know, some teachers, they do extra things as far as using a bagel and cheese and making like a piece of bread. And sometimes we can't afford to do things like that. So just trying to provide children with a food experience that promotes them to uh, be hands-on with food. And we do that. We need to have that done twice a month and listed on our lesson plan. Another back to daily activities, our music and movement and physical activity. We should be using our physical intentional teaching cards and mighty minutes, making sure that our children are having at least 30 minutes outside to explore and be physical outside and exercise their gross motor and fine motor skills. Um, the thing is, it is best practice is 1 hour, but we at least want you guys to make sure that we're doing 30 minutes. That means something. And then making sure that we know weather permitting is temperatures between 25 and 90 degrees. However, the wind chill is considered. So if it is 17 wind chill, the children are not expected to go outside. I know weather can be a big issue. We just have to make sure that we have that constant communication with families to ensure that our children are dressed accordingly to the weather, making sure that they are bundled up in the wintertime, and making sure that they have sunscreen in the summertime and not overdressed in the summertime. So just having that constant conversation and making sure that we provide water to our students ongoing. And going with that music and movement, allowing them to move freely, dance around, play around, and use playground equipment and riding equipment and exercise. And that's very important that students participate in those types of activities. And yes, it can include your music CDs, your Greg and Steve, your different type of Dr. Jane music, but it's just important that we do provide children with that outdoor gross motor play. So individualization, just going back to it again, it's just very important that we remember that we individualize for all students, every student in our classroom, regardless of if they have a disability or a behavior plan or if their parent wants them to work on something specific. We individualize for all of our students in our classrooms. Um, our lesson planning system is set up to where we have to, but I just want you guys to know. So if ever asked, do you individualize for all children, that can't you can't answer it correctly, knowing that we do individualize for our children. We start when they enroll in our programs. We start by looking at the parent goals, looking at what the child can do, what things they should work on, and we continue this process throughout the school year. So just knowing that we individualize for all our students. When we are lesson planning, we do that choosing our large and small and individual activities. Um, we choose the goals that we want the child to work on, the goals and objectives, and then we choose what type of activity that they will do. So it's very important that we are intentional with that. We can go through our lesson plan, as we saying earlier, and go ahead and complete our preliminary checkpoints if you would like. And you can go in and add an observation just to show the student progress. What did they do when you provided them with that activity? But making sure that we do that for all our children. And then, as you guys see right here, for our individual child plan, earlier I said 2 to 3 children, but it's actually three children a week. The individual child plan is a specific plan that we make sure that we do for all students throughout a period. So every week we should do it for at least 3 students, including the child that has an IEP. We can continue this activity as long as it takes for the child to accomplish. We should share the activity with the parents so they can practice at home. However, we should make sure we rotate children for the individual child plan just to ensure that we are making an individual child plan for all children throughout the 4 periods. This is different from individualization. It's not different. It's an add-on to individualization. So just knowing that we individualize for our lesson planning activities for individual small and large group activities, as well as make individual child plans for students to meet specific goals to work with families on. All right. And then making sure that we are using the child's IEP as a resource um, to ensure that we are making progress, to ensure that we are monitoring child progress towards those goals, working with the child's team to make sure that child is making progress. And next, just making sure that we have our objectives throughout our lesson plan. All of our activities are chosen intentionally. We are using it to mark preliminary checkpoint ratings, and we're entering our documentation throughout the period and using that evidence to consider when we are finalizing where a child is at according to the levels of progression after each period throughout the school year. And then this last piece, the family partnership. So I just wanted to go to teaching strategies again. The family partnership piece can be satisfied. Hold on, I gotta pull it up. I'm sorry. It can be satisfied through sharing the family learning games, which I showed you to do through the lesson plan. But I also wanted to show you through your teacher page where you could just share for groups of children. So you could go to your family tab, and it's very important to make sure that we invite families to get signed up. The only thing they need to share is their email address, and you could go right in and click here to add family members. But anyway, we are going to go to the resource library, where you have a choice of sharing development and learning activities or learning game activities, and you could share in English and Spanish, which is great for children who are dual language learners with English and Spanish. I usually print out an English copy and a Spanish copy, and I copy them front and back to share with a family. And you could just pull these up. You can view them, you can print them and share. So that's what I was saying. This is the family learning game. So this was the learning game. But I wanted to show you guys the resource library. So the development and learning activities. You choose what age or class grade the child is on developmentally. Say, for instance, if I'm going back to my math, working on quantifying. So I want the math area. And then this child, I just need English. Then you just press submit, and it's going to generate lots of activities at that age or class grade that you could view and share with the family that's related to the math area of development. So let's say I wanted to do bee pattern. Let's say 5 Little Monkeys. And it'll pull up, it will have the title of the activity, your objectives. Why is it important for the child to learn that? Which is important because you want parents to understand why and how their child is learning. So it's important that families know, I should teach my child this activity because my child should be learning movement activities that involve counting, and it can help them learn number sequences while developing motor skills. It tells them what materials they need, and then it gives them step-by-step directions on what to do. So this is a great activity. You can share this. If you have Spanish-speaking children, you can print out the English and Spanish and print it together. Or if you have your families in teaching strategies already, you can actually just share it. You just choose the child. And if the family is in there, it will successfully share. If they have the app on their phone, they can pull it up right on their phone, or they could access it online. And then you can even send the family messages through this. So we got to make sure that we're using the system for the way it's intended. And for your family conference forms, you can actually, you don't have to worry about giving the family a copy if they already are in the system. You can actually share with them through the system if they have an account. All right, so let's go back to the lesson plan doc form. Oh, because we were finishing up on the lesson plan doc form, and just making sure that we share developmentally appropriate activities. We should not be doing ditto sheets in the classroom, nor should we be sending them home. And we have to make sure that we tell parents that, our curriculum practices and our program beliefs, we do not believe children benefit from worksheets. And this is what we do to avoid having to use worksheets. If parents want to go buy workbooks from the Dollar Tree and Walmart, that's up to them because they are their child's first teacher. However, we have to promote best practice. And best practice is sharing learning games and different types of activities that parents can use materials or have interactions and conversations with their child to promote learning. And then those wow experiences, inviting people within your community or parents that may work in that field to your classroom, just so children could ask questions and engage in conversations about whatever that wow experience is connected to. And then always allowing parents to volunteer. All right. So just to kind of close out on the lesson plan policy that goes with that. Oh, so like as shared before, this form goes is the checklist that we encourage teachers to use. This was just a version of it with the justification, the explanations for each area. Our coaches use the lesson plan tracking form to track your lesson plans and to tell you if your plans are meeting, complete, missing, incomplete, pending, or you need technical assistance, and then providing you that feedback and discussion to talk about planning, just to give you feedback regarding what they read, and then also touching on past lessons and how you can connect them to what's new that the children are learning. So all of these forms are created with according to what our lesson plan policy is stating. Just so you know, we do promote teachers to have planning time. It is in the policy that we need our directors and owners to at least provide an hour for the teaching teams to complete that planning time, because it is important. And an hour isn't a lot of time. However, we understand coverage needs. So that's why we said at least an hour. It's also in the lesson plan that it must be posted Monday morning of the current week. If not posted, we will have to write down a support plan for Head Start guidance. Um, just making sure that you engage children in the investigation, a study for a period of time. Students, each study should end with an opportunity of learning. So we shouldn't end the study on a Wednesday and start a new one on a Thursday. We should have some type of celebration so children can reflect on what they learned through the study. And then children could just have a chance to celebrate it being over, and then before we introduce a new study topic. So it's very important to make sure that we could close the studies with the celebrate of learning, which all studies end with the celebration of learning, which is towards the back of each study guide. Making sure our teachers, our Head Start teachers, are aware that we have to do the beginning of the year study every beginning of in the first month of every school year. We may have to make sure that we use the teacher strategy system to generate our lesson plans. And if the system is acting up, you can write out your lesson plan. You just need to communicate with teaching strategies, technical support, your coach, and your director so they are aware. And just please make sure you still turn in a written lesson plan. We have to make sure any classroom that has at least one student transitioning to kindergarten is completing the Get It Ready for Kindergarten study during the last service month, as well as providing educational activities that support the kindergarten transition, such as allowing a walking field trip to a kindergarten school to see the kindergarten classroom, reading kindergarten stories to the group, pretending your classroom is a kindergarten room, inviting the kindergarten teacher to the classroom to come talk to the students, just providing children with those types of activities to prepare them for that big transition. And then making sure that our small groups are intentional and they meet instructional goals, and making sure our individual child plans are completed and we are doing them for children with the IEP. Going back up, just trying to see that we cover everything in the lesson plan policy. Yep, it looks like we did. So we are done with that. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. I'm done with that too. Done with the scientific method. Hold on, just all right. So now we're back on our PowerPoint. And we just got done talking about my teaching strategies. Uh, Please make sure when you on there, you go to that blue question mark so you can watch some of the videos. These are just a few of them that can be very helpful. Setting up your weekly template, teaching with intentional teaching experiences, and then planning and teaching in the teach area with the resources. So these are just the example of a few of those videos, but they are available, or the how-to guides are available throughout the website when you press the blue question mark. So we just got done talking about the Easter Seals lesson plan requirements. We know that we complete the lesson plan in my teaching strategies. We submit it to the administrator and the coach. We are making sure that we're planning intentional experiences. We're individualizing for all children throughout individual, small, and large group activities. And we're making intentional individual child plans for all students throughout a period. We do 3 children a week. So, and sharing that activity with the families. We talked about uh, making sure that we are using the IEP to individualize for students, using the checklists to make sure we got our areas of the lesson plan on there, our daily experiences, and then those experiences that we may do twice a week or twice a month, like food experiences, and making sure that we have our planning time with our co-teacher and our feedback sessions with our coaches with the tracking tool. So making sure that we participate in that and that we are learning from it and going back and making changes that's needed, or trying new practices. We are just about done. So for planning, it's very important that you meet with your coach and plan a weekly date that your lesson plan will be available for review. So if you can say like Wednesday, you're going to have your lesson plan ready for that following Monday. Making sure every Wednesday your lesson plan is either emailed to the coach, faxed to the coach, or given to them by hand and sent to your administrator. That gives them time to check it and review, talk to you about any changes that's needed, and then that gives you time to print it and post it and get your materials and activities ready for the plan. Because remember, we want to avoid getting the materials during the activity. Um, During our planning times, we should be reflecting on what we know about each child and what we've seen from previous activities, what the child needs in future activities. We should be reviewing our checkpoint data, so reviewing our snapshot or our child profile report and teaching strategies, our class profile report, reviewing those reports, and planning for our classroom or planning for individual children. Reviewing parent goal sheets or visits that parents shared with you what they wanted their child to learn, as well as reviewing the child's IEP or behavior plan goals and planning for that as well. It's important to work as a team to plan for weekly and daily experiences. Both teachers should participate throughout the day in the different routines. Both teachers should take turns leading group meetings. Both teachers should take turns completing the lesson plan. Both teachers should take turns getting the lesson plan materials ready, facilitating play, completing the individual and small group activities. It's important that we work as a team to complete that, and as well as into documentation for children throughout the checkpoint periods. It's important to work as a team because it can be overwhelming if it is all on one teacher. And making sure that everybody is included when planning: the teacher, the assistant teacher, the teacher's aide if you have one, or the inclusion classroom assistant. It's important that you all dedicate 1 hour a week for planning at least. Use your blue organizer that comes with your curriculum to easy access for your intentional teaching cards, mighty minutes, and books. and you could take turns getting those daily resources out so they're handy and you won't have to look for them. Make sure that you post your lesson plan by the beginning of your hours on each Monday. So if your Head Start hours start at 9 o'clock, your lesson plan should be posted by 9 a.m. And listen to your coach and administrator. Listen to the ideas that they're giving you regarding your lesson plan, changes that you can make, and try your best to implement them. And it won't happen overnight. You won't see change overnight. Just commit to it so you can be consistent with doing whatever it is that we want as far as best practice and teacher practices. So for this was an activity that really wanted everybody to just take a time and really think about everything you've learned today. We've discussed performance standards. We've discussed the Head Start Early Learning Outcome Framework. We've discussed the curriculum and assessment. We went over how to complete a lesson plan and my teaching strategies. We've talked about professional development. We've talked about coaching, implementing activities. We've discussed a lot. So just take a time to think about what's something that you learned today that maybe you did not know, and just reflect about it. And I just want to give a minute for this, just to kind of think about what's something that you didn't know, and now that you know, you will change in the future regarding lesson planning. So, just to wrap up, thank you guys for thinking about what was something that you learned today. I do want to just close out really quick covering a few pieces of the Focus Area 2 protocol because we all are preparing for a Focus Area 2 review this monitoring year, and this is the federal review. Um, just wanted to go quickly to the monitoring and implementing quality education and child development services piece. And it basically covers a lot of what we just read from the performance standards, but really wanted to bring up the data tour piece, what they want to learn. There will be a point where they want to see documentation or may want to ask questions regarding regarding how you ensure that you use data and you are making ongoing continuous improvement for child outcomes and school readiness. So they want to know how the program is monitoring, how as far as Easter Seals or DFSS, and then how the site is monitoring. So the site level, the coach, the director, um, and then as far as the teacher, how do you monitor to make sure that you're meeting your child outcomes? You're making progress towards your child outcomes. So answering questions as far as what do you look at after you complete an assessment period? How does assessment inform your planning? Um, do you know your school readiness goals? How do you plan activities that promote progress with the school readiness goals? The next part, how do you individualize service for each child? Integrate their assessment data into individual and group planning. So being able to answer a lot of questions regarding the how of individualizing. Oh, I review the assessment piece. I choose, me and the parent may discuss some areas that the child may have been below or just meeting expectations. And then I plan activities from my curriculum resources, from CSEFL, if it's social emotional. You know, you can use your different resources to plan for that child in the area that they need based on what that assessment data told you. And it is great to do it with a parent so they can feel a part of that process. And that answers that next piece: how can parents learn about their child's development and progress of the purpose and results of screenings and assessments? They learn about it from the screening results form, our interactions that we have with parents, parent-teacher conferences where we share assessment data. That's how they learn about it. That last piece, how can you, not last piece, I'm sorry, but how can you demonstrate how families of children with disabilities are engaged in their children's learning, and are supported and becoming advocates. So what do you do? What do you do to help parents of children with disabilities? Help parents understand the referral process. Support the parents' participation in the IEP development process. Help them understand the process of the evaluation. Assisting them in learning and supporting their child. What do you do as a teacher? What do you do as a coach? What do I do as a manager? What do the coordinators do? Everybody has a part in it, the center director, everybody. And then the last piece of the data tour is talking about professional development. So how do we make sure that teachers are qualified? How do teachers invest in their own professional development? And what type of goal settings do we have with teachers as far as setting professional development goals and meeting them, and that coaching experience? The next part, the learning environment exploration. So the reviewers will come to the classrooms and observe them. The times that are here is usually between 20 and 40 minutes in the classroom. They will make sure that they are observing the indoor and outdoor learning environments, making sure that the materials is age appropriate, the equipment is age appropriate, the supplies is enough physical space for the age group and a number of children, and there are accommodations for children with disabilities to support implementation of the curriculum. So it's very important to make sure that your classroom tells what study you're working on. The reviewer shouldn't have to interrupt you during the lesson to say, excuse me, man, what study is your classroom working on? They should see evidence of it. They should see children's workup. They should see the postings of questions and the shared writing experience on chart paper and books that's related to the learning. Different materials, maybe home materials that parents have sent to share with the classroom. They should see it in the classroom. So it's very important to make sure that it's there. And we should have visuals for our children. We should have a visual schedule. We should have visual rules. We should have visual emotions posted in the classroom. And when we have to make sure that we're accommodating for our students with disabilities, we should have individual schedules. We should have whatever visuals that they need to support them to regulate in the classroom. We should have our PEC cards, our PEC system, our PEC ring that has our visuals for individual communication with students. All of that should be in the classroom, and it should be there so the reviewers can already see it. The reviewers will be observing the effectiveness of teacher practices and assessing whether assessing the learning environment. So they're going to be observing to see if you foster trust and emotional security in the children in your classroom. Is your communication and activities and materials language rich? Do you promote critical thinking and problem solving? Do you promote children to have social, emotional behavior and language development? Are you providing supportive feedback to promote learning to your students? Do you motivate students to have that continued effort? And do you support children's engagement in the learning experiences and activities? Number 7, the reviewers will observe how teachers provide developmentally, culturally, and linguistically appropriate learning experiences focused towards achieving progress outlined in the HSELOF, including how the grantee, which helps learning experience that provide adequate opportunities for choice, play, exploration, and experimentation among developmentally appropriate learning, sensory, and motor experiences. how the grantee initially promotes learning and recognizes the importance of all activities, including rest, meals, routines, and physical activity, as well as learning and development, and how teaching includes research-based strategies and activities for children who are dual language learners. So, this is on the grantee level, the delegate level, and the site level and teacher level. It's important that we all know our place. We all know the how, why, and what and when regarding these things that will be asked or wanted to observe. The reviewer will observe how learning experiences are responsive to each child's needs. So, they're going to be looking at that point and how you incorporate in your lesson plan. And then some teachers will be pulled for teacher and provider discussions. Please make sure that you are actively supervising your classrooms, not being distracted by the reviewer. If the reviewer is trying to talk to you and you are in the middle of something, or it can cause children to be unsafe, please ask the reviewer, can you guys step out when someone is available for coverage? All site directors are going to be working out, as well as Easter Seal staff will be working out coverage for teachers to step out of classrooms. But this is some of the questions that the reviewers can ask: how teachers implement the curriculum in the classroom, how teachers design individual and group lesson plans based on the curriculum. So we talked about that a lot. How the grantee provides feedback to staff to inform your ongoing development and improvement in teacher practices, how teachers receive support in effective classroom management, the types of training staff receive to help plan individual and group lessons, activities, and schedules that align with HSELOF and the curriculum, how teachers and parents are involved in sharing and using information on individual children to ensure children and families receive necessary support, and then how programs ensure meeting and individualized needs of children and disabilities, providing all children access and participation in the full range of service. So today we covered all of this because of course they may have more questions, but we covered a lot of this in this training. So please make sure that you review all of these resources. You are using them because we are preparing for that focus area 2 monitoring review, where they want to know about your program and they want to know what you do to make sure that you are meeting the program performance standards. So meeting those performance standards that we discussed today. So I think that is it. But let me go back to the PowerPoint just in case. So just things to remember: build on your children's interests, provide plenty of opportunity for children to play, individualize support for all children in your classroom. Be innovative, think outside the box, and be intentional. Know why you are doing what you're doing and make learning fun. And this cute picture of these three. Look at the little girl. She's stacking those blocks. Wow, she's learning at a young age. Thanks for your time. I know this was a long one. This was part 2. Please make sure you watch part 1.